Yeah. I don't think so. I'm concerned if you did.
Yeah. Okay, I'd like to call the June 28th meeting of the Winnebago County Planning and Zoning Committee to order. Good evening. My name is John Hens, and I'm the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Committee. I represent District 21, which consists of the south side of Oshkosh along Lake Winnebago. In a moment, I will ask the members of the committee to introduce themselves, and I will also ask the staff to introduce themselves and explain the appeals procedure. The hearing process is as follows. Please turn off or silence your cell phones. All testimony is given on the record. Please come forward when recognized and you will be sworn in. When talking, please speak clearly so that all in attendance can hear what you have to say. When you are giving your testimony, please state that you are for or against the item that you are testifying on. The committee doesn't want conversations between members of the audience. If you feel the need to have a conversation with other members of the audience, we would ask that you leave the room and utilize another part of the building, please. If you have questions of a particular speaker, please come forward and ask your questions of the committee, and we will try to find out the answers for you. The committee will make its decisions on Friday, July 8th. As with all county meetings, it is an open meeting. However, no additional testimony will be given at that time. This is your one and only opportunity to provide testimony for the record. The deliberative meeting is held on the 3rd floor conference room of the County Administration Building here on Otter Street. And the meeting time is 7:30 a.m.
Ready? I'm Mary Beth Gabbard. I represent District 12, which is a northern portion of the city of Oshkosh and a portion of the town of Oshkosh.
Good evening. My name is Tom Egan, and I represent District 33, which consists of the town of Rushford, Huygen, PPScom, part of the town of Utica, and part of the town of Armorough.
My name is Howard Miller. I represent District 36, which are the towns of Bolt River, Winchester, and the western half of Clayton.
I'm Shauna Sester, representing District 32, which is McKay, Black Wolf, and part of Utica.
I am Daniel Lefebvre. I'm a code enforcement officer here with Winnebago County, and now I'll read the appeals process. So for a conditional use, an aggrieved person may file an appeal claiming the required procedural requirements were not followed relative to a conditional use with the Board of Adjustment prior to the issuance of a final decision or within 30 days of issuance of a final decision. Contact the zoning office during normal working hours and the staff will assist you with this procedure. 2, an aggrieved person with their own legal counsel may appeal the final decision relative to a conditional use to a court of competent jurisdiction within 30 days of the final decision.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move to our first item on the agenda.
Okay. Application number 2022-CU-6040. Property owners, EAA and others. Agent Jeff Schultz, Martinson and Isley. Tax parcel number 012-0199. 012-0202 and 012-0177. Location of premises 4016 Knapp Street. Legal description: being all of Lot 3 of CSM 5755, located in part of the northeast quarter of Section 10, and also being a part of the west half of the northwest quarter of Section 11. All in Township 17 North, Range 16 East, Town of Nakai, Winnebago County, Wisconsin. Code reference: Chapter 23, Division 3, Section 23.8-381, Exhibit 8-1, Section 1301. Description of proposed use. Applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to construct an airport.
Thank you. And now if We have the applicant or representative here. Do we have someone here? This would be their time to speak. Oh, I think
Yeah,
he's
unmute
muted.
yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Jeff Schultz from Martinson and Isley representing EAA.
I'm sorry, Jeff, can you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear the statements you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
State your name and address.
Jeff Schultz, 1377 Midway Road, Menasha, Wisconsin, 54942. 52.
Okay,
So I'm representing EAA. I'll answer any questions anybody has. I would like to address the denial from the town. I did find out why they did that, is if I could speak to that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There was a misunderstanding in our beautiful world of computers. One of our shadings of the grassed walkway and the pavement went over the top of the existing road of Knapp Street, and the town basically thought that we would be shutting down their road during events, and that's not the case. It's going to be the way that they always do it per the standard. They're going to have somebody at the intersection directing traffic. It would be basically during EAA events, but the mistake that we made was we shaded over the top of the road, and they thought that we were going to basically do something to their road surface, and the plans are not that way. They're just set up to match the existing surface and maintain the existing drainage of Knapp Street. So, any other questions to that effect, I'm more than happy to answer.
To give this some context, I'm going to read in a town decision. So from the town of Nakaimai, they are recommending denial, and these are the findings. The motion was made and seconded to deny due to the restriction in road access, due to the movement of planes across the road, and the limitations that will hinder emergency vehicles and town of Nakaimai resident travel on the road. That was carried 3-0. Signed and dated.
Thank you. Now, does anybody have any questions for the petitioner while we have?
Yes, I have a question. Since you have had this discussion with the town, are you going to go back to the town and see if they will reverse their decision?
If that's the proper procedure, but definitely we will be going back to the town. I'm not sure if we need to go through another reapproval process, but we definitely will go back to the town and explain it a lot better and give them a revised map that shows that we aren't altering their road at all. I talked to Steve Taylor, who's the director of facilities, probably about 20 minutes ago. He talked to Glenn, the town chairman, because we wanted to know what the denial was for prior to this meeting, and that was the reason. He said if you treat our roads just like you always do during all events, there's absolutely no problem. So it was a misunderstanding, and I'll make sure that gets conveyed prior to your July 8th decision.
Chairman, I have a couple of questions of you. You said, or what was read by the town, it didn't say destruction to the roads. They were concerned about even going over the roads and that emergency and that. And so it wasn't construction of the roads. That didn't seem to have any problem with it. It's just the idea of flying over. Did I hear you correct when you read that?
Restriction and road access due to the movement of planes across the road and the limitations that will hinder emergency vehicles and town of Nakai resident travel.
Okay. So that's one thing. Whatever you're going to do, it sounds like it's not just like they thought you're going to rip up the road. It seems like they're concerned about even the flyover of it. The other thing that I'm concerned about somewhat, when you say to construct an airport, what's construction of an airport? I know what you've got here, but construction of airport, it don't say, if we put that word airport in there and nothing else, that means you can have any type of airport functions going on in there with, along with the FAA or whatever, but you could be doing something else that, you know, maybe they'll be running against our own airport. I don't think we necessarily want that. So that's just my own feelings now, but just the word airport without saying that you're going to have ultralights, you're going to have whatever you're going to have in there, nothing else but airport, that bothers me somewhat also. Thank you.
I could respond if you'd like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I saw the application and said construction of an airport, I was wondering if somebody might say something. It basically is the construction of a grass taxiway to convey pedestrian traffic, and a paved taxiway for the ultralight ultralight planes. The crossing. Well, I guess crossing wasn't really your question. It's basically those two items constructed, along with taking care of stormwater. Yeah, airport is a very general term, and that's not the intent. Within the report of the staff report starts getting into the specifics of what actually is going to be built. And that's basically what I just stated.
Absolutely.
My second one. When you say grass airport, I realize that, but we do have, I won't say several, but quite a few grass airports in Winnebago County already. So even just the word of taking that out, putting grass airport, but still, we've got farmers, we've got crop sprayers, we've got everything else that's lining on grass airstrips. So there are more than that. So that's my big concern when you just write airstrip or airport on there. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
You have a bunch of questions. I just want to ask one real quick because I have one that I think might help clarify this. You said you're going to have paved runways, correct?
It's a paved taxiway.
Paved taxiway. And what kind of weight limits are going to be on those taxiways?
I don't have the exact poundage of what these ultralights weigh.
I guess the reason I was asking was because of what Supervisor Egan had asked, if they weren't capable of actual, regular aircraft weights, that would be something that would, I think, alleviate a little bit of the concern. That's I'm trying to. Just
to clarify, per their plans, we have a grass runway and a grass taxiway.
Oh, for the plans, it's grass and grass.
Okay. I know he did mention that they won't be putting grass through the road, but
right,
grass and a paved tramway.
A paved tramway. So okay, what are we looking at then? Because I think we just heard from Jeff that it was paved taxiway.
Okay, a paved tramway and a grass taxiway.
Okay, I'm just trying to clarify everything. This is our one chance of being on the record and asking you questions.
Yes, and they are for the ultralights. They're not for the big planes. And where you see the stripes all over the horizontal, that's for parking for the planes. They park on a regular basis off to the east. You can kind of see that the lines line up. That was the reason for it's to park more planes. and for pedestrian traffic during the EAA event.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Gabbard, go ahead.
I have some statements and some questions. One thing that bothers me is citing an airport. You can call it what you want to call it, but when you say citing an airport, FAA comes into play, and I'm sure you know that, but FAA has to give their final approval on this. That has nothing to do with the town, with this committee, with the county. They'll come and look it over and say, yes, this works. Another statement, they already have this situation in the EAA grounds right now that they use during EAA. They have an ultralight area.
Yes.
And yes, right, Jeff? I mean, yeah, they want to move this because during EAA, most of the incidents occur in the ultralights. They're working around power poles, trees. So they've been working on this plan for 4 to 6 years from what I gathered. I wish it had been called something else. You could have called it, I don't know, an ultralight field or whatever, but that's disturbing to me that it got written up this way.
I just want to mention something from staff aspect. This is an allowed use with a conditional use, so allowed within the zoning district per conditions. That's just what we have it classified as. You can put whatever conditions you'd like on it.
But it's going to stay as an airport application.
That's what the application is.
Most of the time it's going to be, another statement, most of the time it's going to be used a lot during EAA, but that doesn't limit it from being used for other things. So you could say primarily it's going to be used most of the time for EAA, but again, there could be something else that takes place there. Some fly-in, something with ultralights. The noise factor isn't a noise factor, but it's noisy if you haven't had that there before. So it will disrupt the neighborhood a little bit. Traffic flow, I know during EAA, they do the best they can to keep the flow of traffic. Emergency vehicles, City of Oshkosh, ambulance, paramedics are there. I think it can be handled well during EAA because the players of the emergency vehicles that are on the grounds from other municipalities know how to handle this. But on my other hand, I like to listen to what the towns have to say because it affects the town. And conditional use, like you say, we can put as many conditions on this and we can review it as often as we want.
Yeah.
And we can also, if things aren't right, pull the conditional use. What else do I have? We're going through a master plan for the airport right now. And I was concerned that that would affect our master plan. And I've been assured that Mead and Hunt will know about this. They already do know about this. And they will make comments in the near future at one of our aviation meetings. So our airport director said he has nothing to regulate on this. This is a zoning conditional use. And so the airport is the airport, but he didn't like that it was called an airport because he's running an airport. That's why I was asking if it could have been called something else. You're saying no.
Yeah, they can't. It's airport is an airport.
Okay. Let's see what this I have here. I thought there was a lot of parking. If you're telling me that the east side that we looked at the other day, that's where the planes are going to park.
Going to be all parking.
No, parking is not,
It's for EAA,
but basically for EAA.
from my understanding, yes.
That's all I have.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so regarding Knapp Road, how often would Knapp Road be affected with traffic? If I could ask the representative on Zoom.
Yep, that's what we're doing right now, is asking you questions, so.
How often would Knapp Road need to be, the traffic on Knapp Road be impeded because of this proposal?
Steve Taylor from EAA has told me explicitly that it would be handled on an event basis, and it would be handled identical to how they do it now with the thing that's popping into my head is crossing guard. Maybe that's the wrong, but somebody directing, and that would be the only time that it would be disrupted is when there's the physical crossing of an airplane, which wouldn't take an enormous amount of time. But it's like it was mentioned before, it's something that's already in practice, and this is, I believe it's an identical situation.
So in other words, every single time an aircraft would need to use the airport, they would be crossing over now?
This is for events, though. That's what.
When would there, so there it is possibility that ultralights, which could be including helicopters, if I understand correctly?
I haven't heard anything about helicopters.
It
no.
says in a write-up, weight less than 254 pounds, maximum level speed of 63 miles per hour. But that the Federal Aviation Administration defines ultralights as aircraft with one seat, empty weight. But I also read ultralights include light planes, light sport aircraft, home-built rotorcraft, hot air balloons, and some helicopters.
Well, you just taught me something about ultralights, but these are paved and a grass taxiway for basically a vehicle moving. So, hot air balloon. I'm sorry.
I apologize. Go ahead.
So I can't imagine. I'm having a hard time figuring out how a helicopter would, or a balloon would be in that situation.
Yeah, it is listed in the Winnebago County conditional use application that is actually printed. My question, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but is there ever a time that an aircraft would be landing in the new proposed airport and not crossing over from the existing side or the other side?
No, this eastern half of Knapp is the physical project. There would be no landing going on there. If you're asking if there'd be any landing on the west side, the current master plan shows that, but it would have to be approved at a later date.
Jeff, could you clarify which side you're talking about? West.
Okay, so Knapp Street, I guess, being the divider.
Yep.
The east side is the project itself that we're trying to get approved, and the west side is a version of a master plan just to show how everything ties together. But that would have to go through a future approval process also.
So as of right now, you're only asking for one side?
Correct.
For the parking area on the east side?
Correct. And the grass taxiway and the paved tramway.
My concern is for the future, where would they be landing and where would they be taxing? Are they going to be crossing over Knapp?
The way the master plan is right now, I would have to say no, because it's parallel to Knapp. That long runway on the west side. But again, that's conceptual.
Not sure if I have clarity on that.
I think I could offer a little clarification if you don't mind.
Yep.
Okay. Looking at the master plan, Jeff, we're looking at the runway being on the western side, correct? In the master plan?
Correct.
Okay, and I'm guessing in the master plan, that east lot would actually end up becoming like a secondary or an overflow parking, and the majority of the parking would be on that western side with where you have all that parking area?
The western side?
Just trying to look at the way the property is and what would make sense. I mean, why would you need to push everything as far away from as possible? I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense of it because this is all news to us as far as, okay, this is just for the eastern side now. And we're looking at this master plan and there's supposed to be all this parking space on the western side as well. And that's what we're trying to make heads or tails of right now, I believe.
Well, we tried to illustrate as much as we possibly could, you know, on what some of the intentions are on the west side. It's still a work in progress, but yes, there is a runway shown. The grass taxiway does connect up to that future runway, and I think mainly that western area where we show a future stormwater pond is like for exhibitions and things like that. It's just another amenity.
Just to be clear to the committee, what they've portrayed here, they're doing in phases. So if you were to approve this whole thing right now, this is what they're bound to.
The way it's set up.
The way it's set up for our phases.
So is that what they're asking us to do? To do the whole thing?
They have phase 1, 2, and 3 on here.
So they're asking for the whole thing.
That is what it shows, yeah.
Can I make a statement?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, you're still up. I was just trying to help clarify for
Okay.
you, so I don't know if I did or not.
Thank you, Chairman. So as being in the town of Nakaimai, one of the concerns that I have is that Knapp would become more and more impeded and maybe even closed down in 10 years. You know, you don't know how the roads would change. That is a concern that I have, as well as other constituents in the area, that you're affecting that road, could affect the road with this proposal. I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything before we?
Oh, hold on.
I've got a
They'll open it. for
question. I spoke twice already though.
Oh, that's okay. I don't think you're over on your time.
Okay. I just have a question on, I know it says like it's for EAA, but when you look on what's actually for, there's some other names on there also. Can you tell me who all owns this or who's all in on it? Was it Blue Sky Property? Who is that? Or is that a private individual or is that a secret or? If it is, that's fine. I just gotta ask.
It's the same group of people. It's just a different LLC. I don't know the reason why there's two of them, to tell you the truth. There must be some kind of tax reason or something that I'm not aware of, but they both flow together. It's one entity really, but yeah, if you get on the tax parcel map, there are two different owners.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna take this opportunity to try to clarify something else here. Because phase one is the east side of Knapp Street. So that taxiway, does that actually connect to anything is that gonna be connecting to anything at the airport where they're gonna be using? Because you're not gonna have a takeoff, you know, a runway over here for them to start out with.
On the east side of that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that taxiway is going to take them over to the airport, the Winnebago County Airport, or excuse me, Whitman Airport property.
It could go either way. Yes, it could go.
I just wanted to clarify that because
They have rolling security gates on that far east side.
This is really small for us to see.
Yeah. I have the bigger map here if anybody does need it.
Okay, thank you. I think that's.
So here's a clarification. I was told that Blue Sky is EA's real estate division. Well, not EA. To me, that's a midpoint. But currently, where they have the Ultralights at the airport during EAA, it abuts to Whitman Field land. It's EAA land. They own what they have inside those grounds right now. What caught my eye here, and I'm glad we got clarification. Everything's been proposed, phase 1, 2, and 3. So you clarified if this is approved, we're approving everything on this.
That's correct. Everything on the map.
Okay. That's all I have for now. Thanks.
Okay.
Hey, we ask one more question, please. On this Ultralight, say if they move this over here now, just say this gets approved, what's going to happen with where they're at?
What do you mean?
Well, supposedly they've got it in place already.
That's up to them.
They
You
still
can only look at this parcel.
So that'll be the next.
These parcels.
Okay. I've done it, promise.
Okay. Anything else you want to add or anything before you finish, Jeff?
No, I'll just continue to answer any questions. I'm trying my best.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have anybody here that would like to speak? Oh, just hold on.
You solemnly swear the statements you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State name and address.
Christine Pilgrim, Pilgren, 1928 Pheasant Run Trail, De Pere, Wisconsin, 54115. I currently serve as general counsel for EAA. I was allowing Mr. Schultz to talk because he's the agent on the CUP, but I did want to interject and answer some of the questions that have also been posed. So in regard to Blue Sky Property Holdings LLC, that is a limited liability company that is controlled by EAA. The ownership is aligned, as Mr. Schultz indicated. We certainly have some reasons for having a separate entity, but it is controlled by EAA. There are no other individual interests in that LLC. As far as the traffic across Knapp Street, the intent is to handle that traffic the same way we handle traffic over Whitman when we have airplanes and aircraft cross Whitman. That is that we have a crossing attendee, we have a wing walker, and the aircraft that would be crossing over Knapp is much more easy to maneuver because these are ultralight aircraft. FAA definition of an ultralight aircraft is it has to weigh under 254 pounds. I believe that there is a slightly higher weight for the ultralight helicopters that might come in at 314 pounds, but you're still talking about aircraft that is significantly easier to maneuver across a roadway versus the aircraft that we maneuver across Whitman. In regard to the zoning, right now this is zoned agriculture. One of the conditional uses that are permitted pursuant to chapter 23 of the zoning ordinance is an airport. And so that's why it has been filed as a conditional use permit for an airport. The intent is to use it for ultralight aircraft. Again, that's significantly different than the larger aircraft that we have otherwise. I think that answers the other questions that were asked, but I just wanted to weigh in and to provide that information. Certainly there's statutory law that addresses the rights of landowners to pursue conditional use permits in accordance with the ordinances. That's what we feel like we are doing here. And as Mr. Schultz clarified, the intent is not to have grass over the street. That was just a mapping error. Thank you.
Anyone? Shauna first.
How often would these ultralights be crossing? Every single time they want to fly?
It would be on an, as Mr. Schultz indicated, event basis. So
on every time they want to fly one ultralight, every time they want to fly, they have to cross though, is that right?
I don't believe that is correct. If it's one ultralight, I don't believe they would need to take up the whole taxiway. This is a taxiway that we're talking about. The runway is separate.
Right.
And so I am uncertain about whether it has to start east of Knapp and go through the whole path. I don't have that FAA.
I really would like to know that information as to, I want to know if every time they fly, will they be crossing a road? And I don't know what Whitman is. I'm not sure which road that is. Is that a frontage road? Is that a service road?
What Knapp?
No, Whitman, Redmond Road. Is that a street?
It's a larger, yes, it's a
A city
comparable
street?
to, I believe, part of this.
Yeah.
If it's a city road, then yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure at this point. We can look though.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything else?
Yes, I have a question. Is there any reason instead of just calling it an airport, you couldn't call it the ultralight airport or something? That seems to be a big hang up, not only with me, but with other people.
Yes, there is a reason. It's because we have to follow the Winnebago County zoning ordinance. And so in order to apply for the conditional use permit in accordance with the ordinance, we looked at the exhibit, I believe it's exhibit 8.1, and then that lists all of the uses. And so that there's no confusion as to what particular area of the code we are applying under. It just strictly says airport. And so we copy exactly what you have in the code.
Yeah, that is correct.
What would happen if we put a condition in there saying only ultralights?
You can condition however you'd like.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you, both of you.
Okay, I'm glad you're here, but airport is a hang up for me. We have an airport.
Sure.
And I sit on the aviation committee and I'm an advocate of our airport. So now this says airport. I understand the code, but it's an airport that we're going for. And I have a hang up with that.
Sure, and I understand that, but there's no other portion of the zoning ordinance that this would fall under. So
I
this is
understand that, so we could condition it to that.
you, as the zoning board, you have the ability to condition it. I don't know if you have the ability to condition it to death.
But we can condition it.
But you can put reasonable restrictions and conditions on it in accordance with the ordinances.
Do you know the reason why they're moving? I stated what I had been told, that they're leaving where they presently have ultralight capability on land they own within the airport circle, our Whitman field, that it was safety.
I don't think I should comment to that.
I just want to keep the board or the committee focused. It's only these properties we are dealing with.
Yeah. That's okay, I've got my answer.
Anyone else? This is I do have a question, because this is being done in phases, and this says phase 1 is on east side only.
Correct.
So when phase 1 is completed, if I'm understanding this correctly, there will be no traffic going across Knapp Street until they start until they complete phase 2 or phase 3.
Correct. I mean, there wouldn't be, that grass runway is not, I'm sorry, that grass taxiway. It stops at the road at phase 1, and then when phase 2 starts, that's when the property to the west starts being developed.
And then, I know it's, and I don't know, maybe we can get a little clarification on this, because it says phase 2 and 3 improvements include the continuation of the taxiway and tramway, in addition to the grass runway. Now, is the runway part of 3 or part of 2? Just, I think that, because having the runway over there would actually help eliminate cross traffic as well, I would imagine. Because that way, if someone was on the west side, then they would have that runway to use.
And I did not bring my entire file.
It was more informational than anything. It's
sure.
And I think you understand where I'm going with my questions here. I'm just trying to put the picture together so that way we can figure out how much actual, because if they're building a runway there, I would think eventually they would have more of their parking on that large area on the west side, alongside, at a safe distance from the runway, like they do with the aircraft at the regular airport. And that would take away a lot of the traffic going across. Then you might only have the traffic from that east side coming over, which is that small lot. And I'm trying to get to Supervisor Zestera's concerns about the airplane traffic. And I'm trying to kind of piece that together right now as far as what we're looking at in this. And let's see.
Sure.
I just want to double check, make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself or asking something out of turn. Do we have a time frame?
Time frame is dependent to a certain extent upon budget.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's why we're doing it in phases.
Correct.
It's a budgetary issue.
Yes.
I believe that internally we have some time frames, but we have to start with phase 1 and get through that.
Just curious. Think that covers everything that everybody else hasn't covered. To ask one last time, to any of the committee have any more questions?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to this item?
Okay, talk now. So, no, I mean, I'm not being facetious.
Yeah, we'll just have you swear in.
We just we'll have you. We'll have
The public can talk now.
Yes, we'll have you sworn in.
Solemnly swear the statements you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes,
State your name and address.
Diane Miller, 3950 Knapp Street in Oshkosh. I'm right next door, thing, like, oh, that bumps up. The idea of crossing the road that's still gonna have traffic and buses and everything on it. And you're gonna have like a crossing guard that stops traffic when these things go across the road, which I realize that's not the first one, but if it goes bang, bang, bang. If the ultralights are parking on the east side and there's a grass runway and there's a tramway, what do you need a runway on the west side for? If they're already in phase 1, ultralights on the east side and there's a grass runway and they're taking off, what's the purpose of the grass runway on the west side and crossing the road to get to the grass runway? Why is it not good enough?
Please address.
Yep, you're addressing us right now. Any questions, we'll hopefully be able to come back to the petitioner or their counsel and get some answers for you. But for right now, it's us.
Okay.
I'd just like to state also, everybody who's been sworn in is sworn in for the duration of this meeting. Okay.
Did you have anything else? Because like I said, we're going to try to get answers for you if we can. Okay, thank you. Okay.
You solemnly swear the statements you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
State your name and address.
Carol Griesbach, Griesbach, 3940 now. I guess what I'm interested in knowing if phase one is the eastern part that butts up to our property. I just would like to know what exactly, I know there's going to be a tramway and a grass one way, but
Taxway.
What all is going, what can we expect to be in that field behind us? Is that going to be parking? Right now, I think the map says aircraft parking. So is that, are there going to be planes potentially parked there with people camping? The Ultralights going to be there? I'm just curious, can we know exactly what's going to be happening?
Okay, we'll try to get that answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Oh, one of the phase one, I know there's no set timeline for it, but I'm just wondering, do they have some idea of, are they planning on having that up for a year from now? Or is it a couple of years? Obviously we live there, so we see it. There is a lot of work to be done. But I'm just wondering if there's any sort of timeline.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Going 3 times. Anybody else? Let's see anybody else. Do we want to go to Jeff for those answers? Do we want to go to council? I don't know. What?
That's up to you.
I saw you taking a lot of notes. I don't know if you'd like to address some of those questions, it'd be awesome.
So when you asked about the timeline previously, I thought you were talking about phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 1, assuming that the budget goes the way that we envision it currently, phase 1, we would like to start the grading, the stormwater, those types of activities this fall. So the idea is to get started on phase 1 sooner than later, budget contingent. Phase 2 and 3, those are out further, and again, those will be subject to budgetary constraints. As far as the purpose of parking on the east side, it's been carefully reviewed by our senior leadership team, by our safety and advocacy group. I don't have all of the details regarding the logistics of parking on the east and then taking the aircraft over. Unfortunately, I wasn't involved in that planning portion. Potentially Mr. Schultz can speak to it, but I know that there is at least the thought process that a larger, more expansive taxiway, larger one-way is going to be a safer way and a better experience for people to be able to enjoy these ultralight aircraft.
Thank you very much. Did you have anything that you could add to this, Jeff?
No, I think it's being covered.
Okay, just wanted to double check and make sure. Trying to get all the information we can out here right now.
Yep.
Okay, so with nobody else that has any more questions.
She asked several questions. I don't know if we can make sure that we answer those questions about where the aircraft would be parked, if they would be tent camping. I mean, I
believe
think
she said she didn't know for sure.
she didn't know about.
I don't know, I mean, where it's contemplated right now on the map is that the aircraft will be parked to the east side of the map. That is the present plan that's before the board.
Mm-hmm.
As far as camping, I don't believe that there's any present plans. That's not included in the request for the conditional use. that's the best I can say for right now. Whether or not we would try to add that at some point in the future would be dependent upon the needs of the attendees, the ability to properly service that area. There's certainly other elements that need to be considered when you are having individuals camp in a specific area.
Just to be clear, that would also require conditional use for any camping in the future.
We file conditional use permits for camping each year and temporary use.
Temporary
permits.
use,
Temporary
yes.
use permits,
Yeah.
sorry.
Anybody else?
In other words, temporary don't mean that this could be permanent. In other words, every year they have to.
Temporary, just like EAA grounds, we issue temporary uses for concessions or parking, you know, stuff like that. So
If it come up.
if it would come up,
Okay.
that would, I would assume be
Thank
the
you.
general.
Not seeing anyone here. This is my time to ask if you have any correspondence or communications to share.
Other than what I read in earlier from the town of Lakeheim, no, I do not. I don't believe we closed the public comment
sorry.
yet, so maybe ask.
Okay, sorry about that. I thought I did. I thought I went through the 3 times.
Oh, did you?
Then
I
I
don't know
came
if you
back,
said
and
it.
then I came back.
Just say it again for me,
Okay,
just to be clear.
okay. The public speaking session is now closed. And now I'll ask you if you have any correspondence or communications.
And I do not, other than the town of Lakeheim. If you want me to restate that, I can.
I believe we have that on the record.
We do.
So I think we're good with that.
Okay.
So with that, I would accept the motion.
I'll move the adjourn the public hearing.
All those in favor say aye.
Wait, I need clarification. Adjourn
Yes,
or you're adjourning
yes.
to the next.
To the next meeting on
The deliberative.
the deliberative
Is this
meeting.
an adjournment of this item, or is this an adjournment of the planning and zoning?
That's
meeting?
what I'm trying to
Planning.
clarify. What are you adjourning?
I'm not sure what
We're adjourning the meeting.
the meetings. I'm not sure what he meant though.
Okay.
Mary Beth was,
Adjourning the meeting.
This meeting.
Yes.
okay.
And that was seconded.
Second.
I second.
Okay.
All those in favor, say aye.
I
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
You guys are keeping me young.